Where I get caught up on the test is I'll go and I'll see an easy question and I think to myself, it can't be that easy. How do you kind of get over this hump, or what are you telling when people bring this to you? What are you typically telling them, like,
As you were asking this question, where my mind went? Dating. So, when we, especially in today's world of dating, right? Thank goodness I'm not
this
in
is
that
this is
phase.
this is going to be interesting.
You
Okay.
know, I,
What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim. With me, as always, is Mr. Raman Singh. Happy Friday, buddy.
Happy Friday, man. How's it going? You got any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, we got CFP office hours.
Yeah, of course. Can't
Um,
forget that. And you know what? They're at that crunch mode, right? So they're gonna be ready this time around.
First mock exam this weekend.
Oh my
Exciting
God.
stuff, which is always
Especially
kind of
after
the cool
what
part.
happened, they got their ass kicked in the last session
Yeah.
with the estate case. Oh my God, that was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. Um, I want to talk about something that I've been hearing, not a lot recently, but I tend to hear a lot from second time test takers. You'll hear it a lot with, and more specifically with second time test takers, is I feel like the exam is trying to trick me. It's set
Yeah.
up to trick me.
Yep.
And the where I get caught up on the test is I'll go and I'll see an easy question and I think to myself, it can't be that easy. How do you kind of get over this hump, or what are you telling when people bring this to you? What are you typically telling them, like, we have, like, and I get it because as a test taker, I probably do some level of the same thing myself. We're sitting there going, seems too easy. Why would they want to test me on something so easy? This is a hard test. And I get lost in the that this is a hard test too. How do we start to get over that, or what are you telling people, Raman?
As you were asking this question, where my mind went? Dating. So, when we, especially in today's world of dating, right? Thank goodness I'm not
This
in
is
that
this is
phase.
this is going to be interesting. Okay.
I mean, like you're single and you're on your, little apps because 90% of the people date through apps, right? And you're like, okay, like I've been in crappy dates before for whatever reason, whether this person sucked or they were like too manipulative or whatever that case is. And then eventually, like you find like a simple person, and you're like, wait a second. Like, is this person really that simple? And what do you start doing? You allow your past experiences and your mind play tricks on you and think that this person's playing tricks on you.
Right.
However, if you forget what's happened in the past, learn from it and just focus on who you are today and what you have learned as of today and just play the game right, right? It makes things less complicated. Why am I saying that? It's because the exam's not trying to trick you. Joe, well, we've seen it. When we see our students and then, they start answering the question, well, is it that easy? It's kind of like, did you read the question? Like, are you reading the question? The people who are making these exams, writing these questions, these test writers, as you say, they're giving us all the information that we need to answer the questions. Anything outside of that, we're literally trying to trick ourselves. I mean, how many times, Joe, do you see students where they say, would they read a question, well, assuming that they're making 150 grand a year, or assuming, the market's volatile. And what do you say to that?
I, you know what happens when you assume.
Yeah, exactly.
I tend to think that, it's interesting that you brought up dating because it's a funny thing that, you're living in the past or you're living in the future, and you see people kind of mess up dates where they have this good connection with somebody, but then they start deteriorating. Like, I had a good date, and then they'll start like inventing reasons not to pick up the phone or call that person or whatever, although the connection is there, and so on, because you don't want to get hurt or whatever. And it's a scary thing for all intents and purposes. But I tend to think that the reason that we all kind of fall into that trap is you fell for that trap previously, and now everything looks like a trap.
Right.
It's like seeing,
Like
I've never seen a red car before. Now every car that I see is red. So now I'm like, I'm hyper aware of it. And now it's the only thing that I see is red cars.
then
And
you
I,
start looking for it, right? You start just looking for that at that point.
correct. And then you start inventing it.
Yeah.
And I think the one important thing to get over that is it is your job to answer the question that's in front of you. It's not
Yep.
your job to answer the question that happened before. It's not your job to answer the question that was in a practice test or a cumulative or a topic test or in whatever test that you've taken previously. That's not your job because I know a lot of us will go, I've seen a similar type of question. And I think that's where we all get tripped up is that because we've seen something similar, we assume it's going to be exactly the same where the question might be asking you something different, and that's not a trick. It's
Right.
a different question. It's similar, but it's a different question.
Right.
And so, that is kind of the we may interpret it that way, but if you start kind of I see the question and I answer the question. I see the question and I answer the question. I see the question, and I answer the question. That's where you start to get over it in terms of I'm no longer looking for the trick because you start to interpret details
Yeah.
and
And you start
overinterpret them.
assuming. And then you start assuming. You know, we had a student, Joe, one of these classes when you weren't there, and we were discussing a question around key employees. And then he straight up said to me, he's like, well, assuming this person owns 5% of the business or more than 1%. I'm like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Right.
Where does it say that in the question?
Right.
Like, why are you just assuming this person owns the business? You know, and thing is, it's because well, those type of people they end up falling for these quote unquote tricks that don't even exist,
Correct.
and basically because they're misinterpreting questions, and once again, like you said, because they got tricked in the past. And I'll say this, I'll say one more thing. It's not the fact that you got tricked in the past. It's because you probably weren't prepared,
All right.
right? It's not like the questions somehow changed this time around than they did last time. It's not like, well, last time they tricked me, but this time they're not going to trick me. They're never trying to trick you. They just want to make sure that you understand how to read the freaking question and interpret the data and apply basically what you've learned.
Obviously this exam tests the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect says that you get this you a lot of people are overconfident when they have a limited number of facts. And then when you start learning more, you start realizing how much you don't know. Like when I started trading the stock market, I had my foolproof system. And then I got my ass absolutely handed to me because I went in with so much confidence and I'm like, oh my God, it's working. So I'm like doubling down and tripling down. And I remember the first time I lost like real money on a trade, I remember just like staring at the screen like this, like
Like, wow.
dumbfounded. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so, and you start reading and you start learning and you grab books and you're like, oh my God. I like what I was doing on that limited number of facts was so lucky and so dangerous. Like it's the way most people go to Vegas. It's, you get lucky, maybe it works, and so you get overconfident and then you start to realize, oh my God, I don't know this much. And I feel like that happens on the exam where you go in with a limited number of facts, you get a couple questions right, and maybe that was your first time, and then you start actually learning the material, and then your confidence flips from being so overconfident to being so overwhelmed that you start second guessing everything. It's a difficult balance to strike because the more you learn, the more you're like, oh my God, I don't know the information.
The less you know.
Oh my God, I don't know the information. So, my thing that I tell everybody is this, and I think this is kind of the most important part. Don't look for a trick. Your
Right.
job is I see the question, I answer the question. Because if you go through 170 questions looking for the trick, two big things are going to happen. One, by question 85, you're going to be absolutely fucking exhausted.
Yeah. 100%.
because you're just reading every detail over and over 400 times and you're doing too much.
Yep.
All right. So that's number one. Two, you're going to overinterpret things. And there might be actually two trick questions on the exam. Who cares?
Yeah.
Get them wrong, get
Right.
tricked. Because, if the reality of it is that if there is, let's pretend there's 10 trick questions on the exam and you get all 10 wrong. Who cares? Get them wrong, right?
Right.
The kind of goal that we look for is to be somewhere around 120 out of 170. That gives you another 40 questions that you can get wrong.
Right.
These trick questions have zero material effect on your ability to pass this exam. However, if you treat the exam looking for every trick question, you're going to turn regular, plain Jane, simple, easy layups into the most difficult shot that you can take. And I
I
think
agree.
that is a crying shame because everybody walks into this exam thinking that the CFP is an exam of intelligence. It is not. Intelligence is a very important part, but it is not the only part. You need to know your facts, you need to know your fundamentals, you need to be disciplined, you need to repeat, and then you have to be ready to take the exam. And taking the exam and getting your exam stamina, learning how to read the questions, learning how to be ready for the exam are all integral parts of the exam, right? What does everybody say in our class all the time? It's not the question, it's my reading comprehension. Hmm.
Especially that one student, and she's like, "Oh, I misread it again. Oh, I
Yeah,
misread it again."
that's right.
Like,
So we clearly have, students not just in our current cohort, but this is a recurring theme for us where we have at least one or two students who are moving too quickly through the material that it's a crying shame to know the information and then just read it so fast that you take yourself out of the game.
absolutely. Joe, I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but what's one pointer can you give the students who are preparing for the test to make sure that they can excel in that skill of reading the question thoroughly, and that way they don't fall for that quote unquote trick?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you the my best advice here, which is take go and create a 25 question quiz and take that quiz as fast as you can. Right? Go in there and give yourself like a 15-minute time cap. Right? So you're gonna go and you go as fast as you can. Read the questions really, really fast and see how you do. And then take that a second quiz and go really, really slow, meaning try to extend it out to 40 minutes and read every question, read every answer,
Mm,
and then find your pace somewhere in the middle,
yeah,
right? Where like, feel what it feels like to go really, 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 really fast, feel what it feels like to go really, really, really slow, and then kind of find your balance in the middle of, I read the questions really fast, now I read them too slow. So when I read too fast, maybe I missed things. When I read too slow, maybe I overinterpreted, and then find your pace. And then that's your pace, and that's what you stick to because you don't want to go too slow and overinterpret it. You don't want to go too fast and miss things. You want to find that sweet spot. But sometimes you got to go to the extremes to kind of feel them to know where the middle is. Because sometimes it's hard to gauge where the middle is because simply going, I need to slow down is not really actionable.
right.
Does that mean that I read every question 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times? Do I read every word? Do I see every letter? So, do that exercise to kind of help you find your middle pace. And then that's the pace that you stick to. And that's the pace that you carry into exam day. And that's what you should rehearse at. So, if you're at the beginning of your testing right now, or even if you're in the middle, it's a really simple exercise that you can do. It'll only take you an hour. Take an exam really quick, take one really, really slow, and then kind of start to find your pace somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, an hour of your time to help you evaluate what the best pace that you should be focusing on. Hey, I mean, that's a no-brainer at that point,
Oh,
right?
I agree. I agree.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's a no-brainer. So, with that being said, everybody, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you videos just like this. And we will see you on our next episode. Bye now.